Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at the ForestCraft deck. I haven't covered a lot of forest, but I've actually finally got enough of the forest legends plus the temporary card stuff to actually make some decent forest decks. So we're covering the Okami Prime Forest deck today. This is one variation of it. I have seen variations of Okami Forest, and I'm hoping by the time to you guys it'll actually be a more defined one that I can do a video on. So expect an updated version of this deck in the future. But for now, Prime Okami is a massive card. It does so well, along with things like the Queen of Blades. Cynthia is great. Miracle of Love is a great defensive card. Eliza for extra draw power. Really, everything in this deck works quite well together. The only problem I've ever had is actually getting the early game to function. The late game, usually fine. But the amount of health I lose in the early game, especially things like blood or losing the board state to Haven, can be a nightmare. So we're going to get into this and take a look. So speaking of blood, that is going to be our first matchup here. As I said, blood can definitely be a very tough matchup unless you get fairly lucky. I have been tinkering around with a few different decks, and so far they're doing okay. And this one is pretty average, I think. I definitely want to mess with some more forest decks and become a better ForestCraft player in general, so then I can truly go deeper on these decks like I do with some of the other ones as far as playing them, but it's just been a very long time since I played anything competitive as far as forest went, at least that wasn't just a straight aggro deck. So, Fairy Whisper, double forest draw, definitely stocking a hand up quite well. I have been trying to get used to using Okami with things like Fairy Wisps. I found they're pretty cool to use and work really nicely, actually, especially if you're looking for an early Okami play. And there's some cool things that you can actually do with those, as far as increasing the token Okamis that you come off it. Also, this one is running Korra, which I thought was a weird choice, honestly. It's actually one of the few cards I would almost consider not worrying about as much, but it is still quite good, I guess. Especially since it's mostly ran with its removal engine, which comes in handy against things like blood at the moment. So this time around though, I did focus mostly on just full-on aggression, buffing the board as much as I could, removing some problem cards, and not leaving too much up. And that seems to have worked out fine, since it does require them to trade quite heavily. And that does at least give us a chance for turn 5. So our turn 5 play is now the trickier one. Peerless Shot is really good though, being able to use that to remove it and then get a draw off it, since it will ram into one of these little tiny bots, so why not? And that's actually not bad either. Forest Defender. I believe the only spell in this deck that does do anything is Korra to it, so it's definitely the only way you can take good advantage, but we have got a Miracle of Love turn 6 play if we want it. And since we do have a free board, why not take the advantage and get that damage in now? Plus we can potentially Okami next turn as well, if we want. But Technolord, again, destroying our board, not so fun times. At least I can go for a couple of fairies into the elf well, and then just, you know, buff those up, get some more on board. Because if I can go face with these, then I can set up for the Okami play as well. Michael Wing Angel though, kind of ruining my chances at the Okami. It's actually kind of depressing seeing that one come down. So I decided to go for a Ravishing Designer because I know I can use that plus the Evo to remove it and then go face for some decent damage. Plus, the fill cards there will actually help me out a lot when it comes to clearing, say next turn if I want to clear a board. And I did try and keep that out of the range of that 1-1, just so they couldn't easily trade into it without using something else. Plus, I only really need 2 fills, realistically, to wipe the board on most blood decks, so wasn't too worried. There we go, a repair mode. That's a little bit of a problem, but not too much, since we can, again, wipe this with just 2 fills. Now, I was tempted to go for the Okami first, but did decide against it. Taking the Forest Defender is just a much better play, since now I can go face for a pretty comfortable 7 damage, leaving with just 1 health. So an Unleashed Nightmare play into a mono. That's actually quite good. That's a very nice play, but it's not really going to be enough when I'm pretty much at max health. You know, just one off it. Some nice little trading going on. But when you've only got 1 health and you can't remove the rest of the board, you are pretty screwed. Next up, we are playing against a Rune. Something a bit different. I haven't seen a lot of Rune on ladder lately, although the first day or so it was definitely more pronounced and full on. So kicking us off with an Okami in hand, Fairy Circle and Sylvan Justice I actually don't mind. The only one I really wanted to throw away was that Okami, and I did end up getting it back again anyway, so it didn't really matter. Just so I could have tried for a better early game. If I can at least secure most of my early game, going into the late game is really no issue. But it looks like focusing on the aggression is definitely helpful, and we're going to get that chance to go again if we want with fairies. Ooh, magic missile, not good. Not good to see a magic missile drop now. We can at least go for the elf here, which is pretty average. If it stays on board, at least we can go for the Evo. If we don't go for something else, that is. Alright, that's a pretty decent board. Peerless Shot though on turn 4 is too good a chance to pass up right now, since it will get us that draw and some removal, and we can still go face. Plus, we do need to try and find something for turn 5 to play out, and at the moment the only thing I can come up with would probably be a Sylvan Lily play or Forest Circle Lily play of some form. Alright, so Eleanor Gloria. I mean, you can definitely see why these would be traded this way. It's a pretty good opportunity for our opponent to really take the board. We have Arboreal Core, along with our own Fairy Whisper. At least that will give me some wisps to take advantage of. Does fill our hand up, but that's just a risk I had to take considering we have 2 Okami in hand already. Now, I couldn't really come up with many other creative plays for that turn off the top of my head, outside of literally just going for Sylvian and hoping for the best. Alright, so Repair Mode, Fate's Hand, definitely an interesting rune deck. It looks to be more direct, at least, for spell boosting runes. So Justice into a Fairy, into more Fairies, and Infinite Fairies. That was a little bit of a mistake, actually. I was wanting to go for Chrysler and Evolve. That way I could at least take out the 5/4. But since that didn't go quite to plan, I decided not to worry about it. Omen of Truth. Actually not a problem. I was a little concerned, but that's actually fine. We can now take both of these out with just using the Okami. And hopefully use another Okami next turn. Plus get a little bit of damage in even, so why not? And the Okamis do get buffed for every follower that comes into play after each one of them, excluding of course Storm Okami. So Fairy Wisps can actually be used really crazily, as you'll see soon. So I got a really good Wind Blast and a Zealot of Truth. They're actually really good draws. Oh, another Zealot of Truth. So we need to take both of those out as effectively as we can. And you'll see some a little bit of creative play going on here. So first, Prime Okami coming down, summoning 2 Mini Okamis and sending those Fairy Wisps back to our hand. So I do need to buff at least once more to start with here. So I take that. I decided to go for the Fairy Wisp play, which will banish itself and then re-buff these guys again, allowing me to take out the other one. And then I can actually just go face. I didn't bother using the extra fairy since it would only buff health, attack power, so health wasn't really going to be a factor. And Knowledge Seeker, that was actually a fairly good play. Truth's Adjudication, and that was a card that I didn't really want to see, but isn't going to actually raise too much of an issue, since we've got some decent ways to remove things now. So I had to come up with some way to actually get this out, and having that spell definitely helped, since now we can use the Lily to actually buff our board if we wanted to for lethal. Which of course we want to. And we can actually take the Okami even further. So 15 total damage, pretty creative lethal I thought. as far as forest playing goes, as I don't do a lot of it, so I was actually really happy with how that ended. So while I don't have a lot of experience with forest decks, hopefully with this expansion and the changes to things, I can actually get into it a bit and give it a good go. It's actually one of the only crafts that I don't have at level 150. I just have neglected it completely, and I really, really do want to get back into it now, so hopefully we can enjoy some more forest, I can give it a better chance, we can get some of those levels up and really push it, since I do have pretty much 3 of all the major legendaries for forest in the current meta. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find a deck list in the description below. Until next time, guys, see ya.